This is hilarious. The Israeli government is mad at France for shutting down weapons booths in a Paris air show. The Israeli government thinks that just because they're upset and they can call anybody anti-Semitic for whatever reason, that everybody has to bend to the will of the Israeli government. Well, that's not happening anymore as more and more nations decide to not deal with Israel. And what is Israel going to do? Just sit there and scream and call everybody anti Semitic because they don't want to participate in the genocide by the Israeli government. If they were truly God's chosen people, the Zionists wouldn't be wholly dependent upon other nations keeping them afloat, as the Israeli government cannot afford to arm and fund its own government.
Now, a spat is brewing between France and Israel. This after the stands of four main Israeli companies were shut down at the Paris Airshow after they refused to remove offensive weapons from display. Israel's defense ministry said it categorically rejected the order to remove those weapon systems. For more on this story, we can go across.
The Israeli defense minister thinks just because they reject the idea of another nation preventing them from doing something in their own nation, that they have the right to control that nation. This is no different than Nazis and Nazi Germany thinking they had the right to control every other nation around them.
Across to James Andre, who's standing by at Le Bourget, covering the Paris Air Show for us. James, what is this controversy about? Because you were supposed to cover the Paris Air Show, and now it's turned into a diplomatic spat.
Yes, absolutely. This has been kind of one of the big stories today at the air show, and that is the fact that indeed the Israeli companies, some of the Israeli companies present here at the air show, found their booths boarded up as they arrived this morning. This after, in fact, France, the French government, issued a guideline saying that they did not want to see offensive weapons displayed in these booths here. Now, with the France 24 team, we were able to access Elbit, which is the booth of Elbit, which is one of the main weapons manufacturers in Israel. And we spoke to one of the vice presidents who told us that he was very surprised that they didn't understand why this was happening, and also that he felt that Israeli companies were being discriminated. Now, what we did also is
No, you're not. The Israeli companies aren't being discriminated against. It's just France doesn't want to deal with the Israeli government committing genocide. It's not racism to not want to participate in a genocide. But this is what Zionists will always scream, that anybody that doesn't support them are racist people.
we called the French Defense Ministry, who actually decided to have these booths boarded up and who issued those guidelines. We were told that indeed the Israeli authorities were informed well in advance that there are 9 companies who are represented here at the air show, and that 5 of these companies decided to not abide by these rules that had been laid by the French government, saying that what they wanted was they wanted Israelis to be present here at the fair, but they did not want to see these offensive weapons because indeed these are weapons, the French authorities say, that are being used in the war in Gaza. Now,
Yeah, and it's typical for Zionists to think that they don't have to abide by any rules whatsoever because the United States will always protect them. It's like what's going on now with the Israeli government not abiding by any international law because they know they can get away with it, and they're so used to getting away with breaking any law that they think that no law of any nation applies to them.
this morning, actually, French Prime Minister François Bayrou was here at the air show, and this is what he had to say about this matter.
En fonction de la situation à Gaza, dont tout le monde sait que Given the situation in Gaza, and everyone knows that France considers it a terrible situation for the Gazans, from a human point of view, a humanitarian point of view, and from a security point of view,
du point de vue humanitaire, du point de vue sécuritaire,
France wanted to make the point that offensive weapons should not be present at this trade show.
que les armements offensifs ne devaient pas être présents dans ce salon.
And their response, the French Defense Ministry pointed to the fact that France actually still exports components for defensive weapons, such as the Iron Dome, for example, but has stopped exporting equipment that can be used against the populations in Gaza. Also, we were told that if these Israeli companies were to take down their displays of bombs and missiles, well, indeed, they could reopen these booths and operate normally in.
But the Zionists don't want to do that because they want to. They expect everybody to accept that they're committing genocide and applaud them for it because Zionists want to act like they're perpetual victims and that everything they do is just them trying to defend themselves when that is not the case whatsoever. The Israeli government is committing genocide in Gaza, and now they started a war with Iran, and Bibi Netanyahu fled to Greece because he knows that Iran can F over Israel as much as they want.
At the trade fair.
Okay, let's see if they actually do that. James, what is at stake for this Paris Airshow with the conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Iran and the war in Ukraine?
Yes, absolutely. This is an air show which is heavily influenced by the international situation and geopolitics, as you can imagine. Now, what we see here as we walk around, because this is very much about industry, about new technology, and what we see is a lot of drones are present here, also counter measures against drone systems. You also see some, combat aircraft. Just a few minutes ago, the F-35 was flying a demonstration right here behind me. Very impressive aircraft indeed. Of course, this is a big issue. And for example, there was also earlier on the Rafale, which is the French fighter, which its publicity is to say, that this is the choice of sovereignty, meaning control over the whole chain of supply concerning the aircraft. Also, of course, a big question mark at this trade fair is the supply chain. As you know, aeronautic builders source their components across the world, and of course, the Trump tariffs are having an effect as well, of course, as the geopolitical unrest across the planet. Then there's, of course, the environment. It was interesting, the demonstration that just followed that F-35 was an Embraer, so that's a Brazilian company aircraft, which claims to be the lowest consuming aircraft in its category. So we're seeing also a lot of electric aircraft, for example, that are displayed here. So these are very much the tendencies, if you will, the main topics here when it comes to the air show, which is defense, of course, is a big, powerful number one.